Welcome back to episode 347 of the Tall Boy Radio podcast. And as we always say, who knows where it goes when the beer flows? And like a good beer, we're going to be getting a little bit dark tonight. But before we do, I want to say hello to a couple of new countries. Country number 132, Myanmar. If I pronounced that right, that'd be a miracle. And country number 133, Curacao. Another one for me being so vocally challenged. If both of those are right, then fair play. And we're joined today by Evan. And Evan's been on the podcast a number of times before. And one of the things he spoke about last time was demon hunting and ghost hunting. He mentioned this to us and that maybe we should do an episode on that. And that, as you know, is right in our wheelhouse. So we said, yes, of course. And that's what we're recording tonight. So, Evan, how you doing, dude?
Jeez, man, you are just very professional at this, aren't you? You sound so good, bro. I'm serious. I'm doing pretty good, man. It was a little bit of a journey. I don't know if I had told you, but I had gotten pretty sick for a while, and I missed the last one in June. I went up to Tennessee. I got like so sick, dude. I lost 30 pounds of weight. I dropped down to like 130 something pounds. I'm still going to doctors. I just went to a doctor the other day, and like I'm on like these antibiotics and all this stuff, and I don't want to get too deep in it while we're live. It's my personal health and shit. But I went back, and my dad helped like nurse me back to health. Basically, I gained 30 pounds, so lost 30, gained it back. But
I'm sorry to
pounds
hear
in a month, dude.
Yeah. I'm sorry to hear you've been a while there, Evan. Yeah. So you're doing a lot better now, though. Yeah.
Yes, sir. I'm doing good now. I'm working at this little tea company. It's called Ma Wish Hai Chai. This woman, she's like Arabic, and she's like a master. She's like an herbal witch. Like, I know a lot about herbs, but man, she's incredible. And I've been doing my research on like how herbs like how they function differently when you take them like a tablet or whatever, or if you were to put them into tea and stuff like that, and just the benefits from them. I just like it. Like what really stuck out to me was she told me that like if you look at the places where they drink like the most tea, like constantly, there's lower rates of cancer in those areas than there are places that don't drink tea, which would make sense. You know what I mean? She said like her home country, which I can't remember what. She's like cancer is basically non-existent there. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, still learning. It's pretty cool. If anyone wants to look it up, it's Ma Wish, M-A Wish tea company. You can find it on Google. She's got all kinds of stuff. Over 300 teas, and she's incredible.
That's the thing about tea. There is so many different varieties of it, and it's one of those things. Even over here in England, very very popular. A lot of tea drinkers in this country. That being said, I don't count myself as being one of them. I am a coffee drinker, I'm afraid. Tried tea. I want to like tea because I like the ceremony of it. When you're watching a cup of tea being made, you're adding the leaves and the process of letting it steep. I love all of that.
Right.
But what I don't enjoy is, unfortunately, the taste. I've never found a tea that I enjoy.
Really?
Yeah, it's strange. I've got a real sweet tooth, but I find tea, even without sugar in it, far too sweet.
Wow. I mean, have you ever had chai tea? Have you ever tried chai?
Yeah, I've tried chai, and I've tried things like, I forget. There's a real smoky one, and I forget what it was called. I tried that one because I like smoky whiskies, so I thought maybe I'd be okay with that. Matcha tea, I'm okay with if it's heavily fruit flavored, but it tastes more like fruit than a tea, if we're going to be really honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got you. I feel you. I'm gonna keep that in mind, and as I continue down this journey, maybe I'll send something in the mail to you, a little tea bag. Tell me what you think about this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
That'd be cool. That'd be really cool. I'm gonna eventually have to send you a little gift. I always send my friends gifts. How do I don't know how to get my screen. It's like I can barely see you.
Often the best way for me, I find, for people.
Oh, whatever. Oh well. Yeah. All right. So, I guess we can jump into, I know I'm kind of weird, and I'm a little different compared to the average person when it comes to their lifestyle. But when I was growing up, like I became a ghost hunter when I was, I think I was 16, maybe I was 17. Um, I had a YouTube channel that is gone now. It got disabled. I was banned or whatever. I can't even remember why. It's called No Bullshit Paranormal. It's called No BS Paranormal. Um, and I would
Good name.
go around to like these areas that were like like stories. There's stories about all these places, and I would go, and I'd also go to certain people's houses who would say their house is like haunted and stuff. And most of the time, it's nothing. I mean, like there's like residual things that happen basically everywhere. Like I mean, for example, like out here, um, uh, at my house, an old antique glass jar just fell off the thing out of nowhere. We've seen like two poltergeist activities happen here in like 30 years. It was like the only time I saw something, and there was something else that happened a while back before I was here. So like there's like these residual imprints. Something called like the stone tape theory, where, um, you know, like uh, like basically rocks can absorb energy, and like they imprint upon like the cement or the bricks or whatever it is. Like, so something tragic happens or something like that happens. It's like some type of feedback loop, maybe with other dimensions or something. So it's like something that always happens, or maybe it's just, I don't know. That's going into a whole another theory of how it works. But it really started when I was young. I grew up in Orlando, and I'm going to smoke a cigarette, even though I barely smoke. I grew up in Orlando, and outskirts of Orlando, Florida, and my mom's an atheist. My dad doesn't really ever talk about none of this. He's just a man of very few words. And one day I was outside. I was like 7 years old, and I told my dad that I was gonna cut the grass with a pair of scissors. So like I went outside, and like I was at the very corner of the grass, and I just started cutting, cutting, and cutting. And this guy walks by, or a guy named Keith McCarthy. Keith and Georgia, his wife, and Robert, his son, who was like a year younger than me. And Keith introduced himself, and invited me over anytime or whatever. And I'm sure that he met my parents. I can't remember. I'm sure my dad was outside or something. And I eventually had gone over there for a sleepover. And the very first night, and just keep in mind, like, I didn't even know who Jesus was at the time, you know? Like, I didn't really know anything about God or spirituality. I was 7 years old, I was just turned 7. And I mean, yeah. So I walk in this guy's house, and walk in, and try to give you a picture of the house. Like, when you walk in, you can turn immediately left, and then you can make another left into a playroom. But if you keep going straight, it ends to a bathroom. And then if you pass that hallway, there's steps that goes upstairs and kind of turns into the two rooms. And then there's the living room right in front. And then like off to the left in the corner, there's the kitchen, and there's like a little stall with like stall, I guess it's called, whatever it's called, like a booth, with like high chairs. And I walk in his house, and he has this movie on. I can't remember what movie it was. You might be able to remember. It's an old horror movie. It might have been like Night of the Living Dead or something, but it
Okay.
starts out with three men being burned on a cross. There's like three men like being like burned alive on a cross, and then it comes to a scene where there's like this demon, and he's like throwing up this stuff. I can't remember what movie it was, but I remember like the very first thing I ever saw in his house was this, and it was the very beginning of the movie, and he put it on to scare me, I guess, and that wasn't really too big of a deal. I mean, like I don't really remember too much about that, but he would used to tell me that his mom still lived with him, and his mom is dead, and she is chained up in the attic, and that's where she lives. And yeah, he would tell me these weird, weird things, and he had this chemical imbalance in his brain to where if he would drink, he would go completely psychotic, and he was already crazy enough as it was. And I would wake up like I would sleep on the couch at night, and I'd wake up at night, and I would see this dark figure. Like, I mean, the house was completely dark, so it was like a shadow. Like, it was like darker than dark. And it would walk, and from the very back, I'd be facing this way, and the kitchen's this way, and it would just walk through the little stall. And you go in, and I'd hear a little bit of noise, and it would walk back, and it would do this thing all the time. And I used to get like frozen in fear. It would scare me. And like, I'd try to talk to Keith about it, and like, but I never really like really knew how to explain anything. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what ghost was. I just knew what I was seeing, and it eventually got to the point to where it was following me home, and like I was scared to sleep upstairs in my room, so I would go downstairs and I would sleep like by the couch, which was right next to my mom's door, because I told her that there was a monster following me. And she told me that there's no such thing as monsters, and it was just, it's just my imagination and stuff. And, whatever. A few things happened that they just kind of wrote off in my house, like doors just slamming shut out of nowhere, and like you'd hear three knocks, on my door in my room, and like, it was like demonic, man. Like, but no one really ever noticed it. And so, and not only that, like so that was something that had kind of like had attached to me, and I'll get further into that because it ended around when I was about 20 years old. Um, but he was also a master at like like the Dungeons and Dragons like board game and the tiny little figures.
Yeah.
He would paint those things. He would paint those, and he would make like these setups, and he's really good at that. And around Halloween every year, he had this witch that was like, I don't know, 3 feet or something, and something like that. And he painted it, and it was like all black, and it looked scary. It looked really good, and he would put it on this little tiny little table, right next to the big screen TV in the living room, and I would sleep over there all the time. And I would wake up at night, and I'd open my eyes, and that thing would be right in front of my face. It would be right there. And to this day, I don't know if Keith was fucking with me, or if like this thing was being moved around. And then, and I wasn't the only person who was like seeing this shit. Like, I still messaged my next door neighbor's name was Evan, and one night we were sleeping on the fold out couch. We pulled it out. We were sleeping like on the bed, and Robert was sleeping downstairs with us. And Evan woke me up, and I looked at the steps, and I saw a woman in all white. I saw like an apparition, like, of a woman walking down the steps, like as clear as day. And I woke up Robert, and Robert, I must have been like 10 years old at the time, and Robert was like 9. And Robert woke up and he said, "Oh, don't worry, that's just my grandma." Went right back to sleep, like it was nothing, So, like, Robert never really, I guess, like when he was younger, he was just so accustomed to these things that, like, it didn't, I don't know, And,
Yeah.
like, it gets worse. Like, this is like, it gets so much more worse because, like, he was a big drunk, like a big alcoholic, and he ended up having another son named Eric, which I'll get into in a minute. But Keith would do these strange things that, like, I don't even know. Like, he would hire people. Like, he paid somebody money to dress up as like a vampire and come and scratch on the windows at night and break in the house just to, like, scare us, like
That's
shit like that. Yeah, like, so a lot of it was like he was messing with me, and then, like, now that I think about it, it's like somehow I know that, like, our thoughts, like everything's a thought before creation, and it just makes me wonder if, like, somehow he had, like, manifested something or whatever. But it goes much deeper. And so there was one day I was on my rollerblades. My parents just bought me rollerblades for Christmas, and I was 12, 12 years old, and um, Eric, maybe I was 10 or something, or 11, and Eric was a newborn, 6 months old or something like that, and I was on my rollerblades. Keith lived about 7 houses down from me, and I got on my rollerblades and I saw Keith, and he's walking my way, and he had a 12-pack of Heineken in his hand, and he chugged one of his Heinekens, and he threw the bottle into our neighbor Angel's yard. And, coincidentally, the dude's name is Angel, and he did not like his grass being touched. He was, like, very particular about his grass. And, he threw it, and he was like, "Fuck that guy," this and that. And he goes, "Come with me." He makes me come with him, like, forcefully come over there. And I walk in, and straight ahead, Eric is in a car seat facing the back of the couch with the vacuum on behind him. Okay? So the vacuum's on behind him. Eric is screaming. And Keith is like, "Come upstairs." And I was like, "Keith, man, like, Eric's crying." And he turns around, like, I'll never forget it. He goes, "Why the fuck do you think the vacuum's on?" You know? And, like, that, like, this was when I started to realize there was something wrong. Like,
yeah.
like something really wrong. Um, and I went upstairs, and he grabbed a black trash bag, and he started putting all of all of his stuff, like all of these, like, he didn't only paint those, like, he made, like, toys and stuff, like, he had, like, a really cool flail, like a morning star. Yeah, is that what it's called? Like a thing. It's got the little
Yeah.
chain with the spike.
Yeah. Morning.
Um, yeah, he'd make, like, little swords, foam swords, and stuff like that. For the kids and stuff. And he started putting all this stuff, like, and all these expensive toys and, like, these collectibles, and, like, started throwing them in all these bags. And he was telling me, like, thank God Robert was over at a neighbor's house, because he told me that I was the chosen one. I was chosen, and I was his real son, and I was the chosen one, and he was going to murder his whole family, and he was going to give me all the toys. And he said he was just waiting for his son and his wife to get home, and he was going to fucking kill his family. and I fucking ran, dude. I ran. I ran out the door. I ran home. Years later, I asked my mom, and I've asked her a few times, "Are you the one who called the cops on me? Did I run home and tell you any?" Like, she's like, "No, you didn't tell me nothing." Like, and I came home, and I don't know how long had passed, but there was like a few cop cars, like maybe 3 or 4 cop cars, but then there was like 15 like SWAT unit trucks, and like paramedics and firefighters like blocking off the roads, and it was just like the whole stretch of the road. It was like my neighborhood was from one road to one road, and then well, it turned into a cul-de-sac and stuff, but they blocked off these sides, and there's like 30 houses on each side or something like that, and they just blocked it off. And I walked outside with my dad, and there was a SWAT officer um, grabbing a grenade launcher out of his. I think it was a grenade launcher. I might be mistaken. I think it was like a shotgun with like a thing on it. And my dad was like, "Is it really that serious?" And the officer was like, "Well, he has a knife to his son's his newborn's throat. He has a knife to his throat, and says that he's going to murder his, he's going to kill his son." um, so they ended up like, I don't know how, but I guess maybe he got distracted or something for a second, and 3 cops had rushed in to take him down. And he was a Green Beret. He was an ex-Green Beret, and he fucked these cops up, dude. Um, they eventually got him, you know. And Keith, he looks like I don't know if you know who Duke Nukem is, the
Yeah.
old video game. He looks just like Duke Nukem, like just like him. Same haircut. He wore the same glasses. Everything looked just like him. Wore the same outfits. Like looked just like him. And they eventually get him. So the cops. It was multiple officers who was dragging him outside, and I was the only one left on my whole block who was still outside. And he came outside and he was screaming. And like when he got to his driveway, he just dropped to his knees and he looked up and he started cursing God, just like extreme profanity. I can't remember what he was saying, but like he was like it was like he hated God, like like he just hated Jesus, and like he just it was all his fault and shit like that. And then 2 days later, he's back home, and my mom and my dad and everyone doesn't understand, like, how did he just assault multiple officers? And like he should be that should have everything he just did should have put him in prison for the rest of his life, you
Yeah.
know?
Well,
And
that's good.
that wasn't the only time he was arrested. That was the craziest time. All right. But like he was fucking psychotic. And so as I get older, um, I kind of like start to think about the past. I really started to think about it around 15, 16. We had moved when I was like 13, and I was really big in sports and stuff, and I had my own life. So it's like it's like Keith, like my life didn't revolve around Keith growing up, but I was there all of the time because I was also like I was in karate and I was in basketball and all this stuff and whatever. So like I had things going on, but then I had this guy who would tell me these crazy things, and I started to question these things. And I never reached out to Keith until I was 20 years old. And this just so happens about the thing I don't want to talk about. Like that happened in December of of 2010 when I turned 20 years old, or when I was 20. So like it's just weird, like because somehow this connects to that, I think.
Mhm.
And I remember I had this wild vision. I uh, I saw Keith and like he had died, and it was this real long vision. But I had this vision that he had died, and I had like woken up out of this slumber. You know, I was just on a couch, and like I don't like. It was different. It was like the first time I felt like it wasn't a dream, and I started to see things. You know, um, I started to realize like I guess I'm a bit psychic. You know, and it's probably because of all of this stuff. You know,
Yeah.
um, and so I ended up calling him. I remembered his number 323-1139. I just remembered it somehow, and I called him. He picked up the phone, and he was from New York, Staten Island, New York. So he had this New York accent. He was like, "Who the fuck is this?" And I was like, "Hey, Keith, it's it's Evan." And he goes, "Evan, oh, come over for a pizza." He had moved. They moved over to an apartment complex, and Keith couldn't work. He was a paramedic for a little while, and he got hit by a drunk driver actually when he was just driving, and had to get surgery on his back. So, like he had a huge scar down his lower back, so he had trouble, you know, like I mean, he did pretty good walking and stuff, like, but he was never supposed to walk again in his life. But
Jesus.
yeah, so I went over to his place in Dalton's place, and so I went and I talked to him, and it was him and Georgia and Robert and Eric, and they were all sitting on the couch, and I'm standing there, and I remember, like, I was like, Keith, man, I was like, I had a dream that you died, and me saying all this stuff about Keith, I love Keith. Like, I really love Keith. Rest in peace. Like, he treated me. I don't know. I guess not in a good way. I don't. But like, I was young, and like he brought me to Universal Studios like a few times a year, and like brought me to like Halloween Horror Nights, and like he did things like he was a good guy in a way,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
and I looked up to him in a way, but I just didn't realize, I was too young, and I told him I had a dream. Told him I said I had a dream that you died, and he told me that he had overdosed like 6 months ago, or maybe it wasn't that long. I think it was just a couple months. He had overdosed a couple months ago, and he died. And the he was revived, but he was in a coma for a couple months, and he just got home like the night before I called him.
That's rough.
So I
Yeah, that's
know,
weird.
right? Weird, right? He had overdosed in his bathroom from taking too much of his prescription opiates, like probably like Oxycontin or something. I'm not sure. Um, but he probably so he overdosed, and he was in the bathroom, and nobody was home. But Eric was like 10 years old at the time or something. And he was running around outside, and Eric told me that he telepathically heard his father call out for him. So he ran home and tried to open the door, but he couldn't, so he called the cops. And that's what saved his father's life.
Jesus.
Swears by it, right? So,
Yeah.
like, we keep talking and stuff, and I had already started ghost hunting. So, I had ended up asking him, it's like, Keith, have you ever, like, thought about playing with a Ouija board? And he was like, "Oh no." He was like, he told me that he said something like, George and I played with a Ouija board one time, and we were followed by a demonic entity for 20 something years of our marriage. And I just paused for a second and I was like, wait. And I was like, and when did you guys get married? You know? And like right when I said that, Georgia started to cry and she got up and walked away. And Keith got up and grabbed this like holy oil from his altar and came up to me and put a little cross on my forehead and told me he was so sorry.
Wow.
And that freaked me the fuck out, dude. Like
Yeah.
that, you know, like I was like, what? Like I couldn't. There's no way I could digest that. It's like, are you saying that I have an attachment? You know, like I don't understand. You know, I was fucking scared, man. You know, and that night I stayed at his place for a couple of nights, and the Robert got to stay up 2 nights. I stayed Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So Thursday and Friday, Robert got to stay up with me, and we were playing like video games and stuff. And around like 3 o'clock in the morning, this alarm just goes off in the corner like crazy, and we look at each other, and I was like, "Does that happen all the time?" And he goes, "That's never happened." So I got up and I unplugged it, and it was still going off. So I flipped it around and I pulled the batteries out, and it stopped. And then the next night, or no, so it was just 2 nights. So that was Friday night, and then Saturday night. I was Robert had to go to bed early, or I'm sorry, it was Saturday and then Sunday night. Robert had to go to bed early for school, and he was still in. He was a senior, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So he was held back. He had like a hole in his heart, so he was like an 18-year-old senior. And I remember I was watching Zombieland, and it had ended, and I decided to leave the TV on. Just turn the volume down just for a little bit of light. Just because I just like, I mean, like I was expecting some shit to happen. And I remember like 3 o'clock came around, and I like said, like, I was like, I guess Keith's mom's not going to visit me tonight. And right when I said that, the fucking alarm went off, dude. And like, I jumped up, I freaking bolted up, and I went up to it. Like, I jumped up. It was like flight or fright type of thing, because it scared the living daylights out of me, dude. And I just jumped up and I grabbed the thing, and I was just holding it. And I flipped it over, and there's no batteries in it, and it's unplugged. And I was like, would you fucking stop? And it stops, right? And then I go and I lay back down, and this light in the hallway kept turning on and off and on and off. And I thought Keith was messing with me. Like it was like one of those things, because I kept thinking like all of these, as I gotten older, all these memories of all these things that have happened, because I barely scratched the surface on the things that happened in his house. And I thought, like, I didn't know like what, to the extent of like how he messed with me, and so I decided to like lean over, and I'm staring at the light switch, because I'm thinking like, Keith just went to the bathroom or something, and then it kept going, and then it was, he's messing with me. Look over, and the light's going on and off every few minutes. No, there's only one switch, right? And he had an old school big screen TV, one of the big wide ones. So like, and he had 2 cats, and the kitchen was right here. I could see just barely in the kitchen. I could only see the refrigerator, and there's the 2 cats. Like I heard this tapping in the kitchen. It was like repetitive, and the cat jumped up on the TV and is staring into the kitchen, and then the cat on the floor they're like crouched down staring, and their tails are wagging in this weird way. And then all of a sudden they both bolt in there at the same time, right? And that freaked me out. And I decided, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna try to get some sleep. And I just had a white sheet. I put the white sheet over my head, and I just turned and I faced the couch, and I just tried to close my eyes, and I'm just like, okay, I'm protected. This blanket's over me, whatever. And I don't know. Within 30 seconds to a minute, I became ice cold. The hairs, my body, my arms, my neck stood up, and I was ice cold. And a woman whispered to me, and I heard Evan, and I could not make out anything else, but it froze me. Like I could not move. Like thinking back, like I wish I could have been able to just be like and look over. I don't know if I would have seen anything, like, but like it's just, like. And then the next morning, I told Keith, like the only thing I told Keith was, "Hey man, I heard this strange tapping in your kitchen last night." And he goes, "Hey Georgia, you remember remember how my mom used to tap on the table in the kitchen to feed the cats?" She was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "What the?" I didn't even say nothing about the cats, you
Yeah.
know. So like, this is like all really bizarre to me, and like,
Dude, I don't think I'm going to sleep too good tonight from hearing this story. I don't know how you slept after that.
oh man, it's been it's been a struggle, but like, dude, if God wasn't with me, I'd be dead, or I'd
Mhm.
be like a horrible person, you know.
Yeah.
Like I got struggles like financially, I'm struggling and like, but like I got a big heart, man, and like I believe when the time's right and it's like I'm ready, the wealth, the financial aspect of it will come in because I don't want it. I want to help others, you know?
Yeah.
I just don't. It's just not me, man. It's just not me, dude. Um, but yeah, dude, I started ghost hunting, and there was this one place. I went to one place. I don't know if you ever heard of her. Her name was Ma. Oh gosh, now I forget her damn name. Ma something. She was on. She was for a long time. She was on like on America's Most Wanted, number one. She was it was a woman, um, and she was like a bank robber or something like that, and she had um, the longest and largest shootout against the FBI in American history. So the house is littered with bullets, and it's said to be haunted, and that's where she died. Her and her son, I believe, Ma Barker, I think her name is. It's pretty famous, at least used to be.
Yeah.
Um, I went there. I got to check out that place, but there is this one place I went to one time, man. Um, I've always been very skeptical. Like even with all this things that happen, I'm still skeptical. Like to this day, I'm still skeptical. Like I don't trust people. I don't trust when people tell me things. I think that a lot of people lie, and so like even all the people who are at the psychic capital of the world in Casadega where I go. I go there monthly. I'm about to be a camp member. Um, some people are just like I can feel it. You know what I mean? Like I can just tell. You know,
Yeah.
and especially with the experiences I've gone through, like I don't know. I can tell if someone's lying or not. And but there's this one place. Like the reason why I was saying that is because like there was a time where people knew I was a ghost hunter, and I got pretty popular. So people would hit me up and want me to come to their house because they saw their house was haunted. And most of the time, it was a waste of time when I would just go off of a friend's friend or whatever. Hey, my friend says their house is haunted. Go check it out, man. Whatever. Um, but then there's other times where I hear things, and it eventually got to the point to where like I would ask specific questions to like verify on if there was something going on. Like if you hear a certain type of knocking, if you hear things, and then um, like a disembodied voice is a big one. If you hear a whisper and it's around the same time, around the same area, it gives me an idea on if it's a residual and it's like something that's passing by. So there's like a big argument that happened or a big loving moment that happened right here, then a memory of somebody who passed away who cherishes that moment or who was tragic in that moment, and it gets imprinted, and then like a residual effect comes around, and then you'll hear like, I'm sorry, or like, hey, or or like distant like chatter, or maybe even sometimes it'll sound like, depending on where it is, sometimes it sounds like you're in a freaking restaurant and there's a bunch of chatter and teacups and stuff, whatever. um, and then there's a way to ask people about demonic things like smelling sulfur, knocks in threes, also like hearing a strange language. And then there's also certain things with lights. There's also certain things with smells, like if you were to, like, you can aggravate demonic entities, um, to where like they can physically hurt you. Um, but like they can't really hurt you unless like you are gonna let it happen. Like it can happen. Like, so like if you were to walk into a house that isn't haunted, but everybody told you that there was a demon, like it was Satan in this house, right?
Mhm.
And you walk in and it's an eerie old house, but it's not really haunted, right? It's like the placebo effect. Someone would go in and then maybe you would hear something and you think something's behind you and you jolt and you jump and you square, and next thing you know you got a scratch on your back. You hurt yourself from like the inside out because you like manifested that. I mean, imagine if people could harness that power and learn how to use it for good, because like that's how it works, man. But like there's these conjurings and there's these things that happen where like portals open, man. And
Yeah.
this one guy hit me up, and he was telling me about how his father went crazy and killed his mother, um, with an axe. And
Jesus.
something happened. I think he's in prison. I think he got the death penalty. The son, I don't know where he's at anymore. But I went over there and I had it. It was up to this point, it was just me when I would go on these things, and then after this, I started having my friend Eric come with me. Um, I walked into this house, and right when I walked in, I smelled rotten eggs like immediately. And then there was steps right in front of me, and I walked forward, and I got really, really dizzy. And next thing I know, I got slammed into the wall like a force threw me into this wall, and I hit this wall and I fell. And I dropped my camera, and um, my camera is like at this weird angle to where like you can still kind of see me, right? Because I was on the ground, and like I sit up and I get up and I sit in this position for like 3 hours until my 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 video camera beeps for low battery, and that like snapped me out of it, and I left. And then I got home, and my back was like on fire, man. And like I lifted it up and I showed my mom, and I had 3 marks going across my back, 3 red marks going across my back. And to this day, I still have it. They're still there.
Jesus.
They're not red, but you have 3 lines going across my back. Um, and I don't know how, but I have a friend who became a pastor named Scooby, and he called me on a Sunday one day, and I picked up the phone. And I said, "Scooby, I'm not going to church with you." And he was like, "Chill, man. Like, I just wanted to see if you wanted to go out to eat." And I was like, oh, all right. And he picked me up and he brought me to church. And he brought me to this all black church. And we have a friend named Kiwi, Sean Kiwi. And her grandmother was a pastor, like a legit one, like really knew the shit, man. And we walk in and we're walking down the little aisle and she looks up and she was like, hey everyone, go ahead and just talk amongst yourself, or read the Bible or whatever. Kids, play some gospel music. And she was like, hey Scooby, come with me, and you come with me. And I was like, me? And she goes, no, you. And right when she said that, I was like, oh God, I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Like, what are you gonna do to me? And she brought me to this back room, and she opened up this freaking old book, man, and it was in Latin, and like she started reading some stuff in Latin, and I started getting really, really dizzy, and then she just went, poof, and I blacked out, and I woke up. I was in Scooby's arms. I dropped to the ground, and as I was coming to, Scooby was holding me. Like, if he wouldn't have grabbed me, I would have smacked the ground like hard, because I just dropped straight. And as I was getting up, I looked at to Scooby, and Scooby looked at me, and he was like, "Do you hear that?" And I was like, "Yeah. Like, what is that?" And Pastor Johnson said, "Those are the angels. You've inherited the gift of tongues." So ever since that day, I can hear and like articulate tongues. Like it's like this. It sounds like bells and whistles or like chimes. Like that's the best way I can explain it. Like when it's really, really faint. And
Yeah.
then like some people, like Scooby inherited the gift to speak tongues. So like certain people can speak tongues, and then it's like sounds crazy to other people. Like it's like they're doing something with their tongue, where it's like they keep swallowing their tongue and it comes back and it's like twisting, and it's like this gibberish almost, and it's like different from the bells and the whistles. It's like interpreting and then speaking. It's so strange, man.
Well, I wanted to ask that, funnily enough. So, in terms of like the speaking in tongues, so I did something, a course with the church a number of years ago,
Mhm.
where we did something called the Alpha Club, where you learn, about the importance of religion, what it means to you. And it was a weekly course. I forget, it was 10 or 12 weeks, something like that. And on one of the things that we did an away day at a different church. And they had people there, and they had somebody there who was speaking in tongues, and the other person was interpreting it. And it was exactly like that. It was like gobbledygook. But I'm going to be honest, like same as yourself, Evan. I'm a little bit skeptic. There's certain people I'll believe because I think they're genuine. I'm
Yeah.
not as don't think I'm as intuitive as your good self, but I do think you're in tune with things, and you can perhaps pick up on things that are there, from different phases and from different worlds or what have you. I don't understand it myself. I know my wife's very similar to that sort of thing.
Oh
She's
yeah.
had yeah. There's some sort of things picked up upon that I can't and I don't understand. But this, I didn't buy it. I didn't buy it. It seemed like nonsense. It was literally they were just making these strange noises, but it wasn't as you described. Like they were twisting the tongue around. They were just literally like my kids when they were younger and they were learning to speak and they were just making sounds and gobbledygook. I didn't buy into it, but it's interesting that you say that. The whistles and the bells. If an angel was going to speak, I think there'd be something more profound than just gobbledygook. There'd be something more magical. There'd be an essence to it. And that side of it, I didn't buy into. But it's interesting to hear you say that.
It's so the bells and like what it reminds me of. Like it sounds like um it's what it sounds like is the pattern of nature, like the birds. Like I always would wonder, like when I first started meditating and stuff, and I hear the birds, you'd be like, oh, what's that? What's that bird? Or something flies by you, you want to look, it's that bird. And Joseph Campbell had something to say about it. I forgot how he said, but talking about his father and how his father said, like, you can learn the name of a bird and um, break down pluck each feather out of it and understand it all. But once you get that down is when you really start to learn about a bird, you know? Um, and, or like when, like, the wolves howl, like, but what are they truly howling at? Like, things like this, like, what is it? And I feel like there's this, it sounds like it's what the birds listen to,
Mm.
and then they like interpret it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like, and it creates nature. It creates the like, and then the birds are like making these sounds that are creating these sacred geometrical spheres that like somehow keep this reality we see in tune or something. You know what
Mm.
I mean? Like, I don't know. Kind of feels like that. If that
No,
makes
that
sense.
makes sense. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, but you're probably, I mean, like, you are definitely intuitive, and if you think that they were bullshit, you're probably right. Scooby, I haven't heard him do it in a long time. I doubt he does it often, but he would like he would like his lift his thing up and like his mouth would open in a weird way, and he'd be like, I can't do it, but it's
Mm.
like he's controlling his tongue in this profound way. It's like his tongue, like, synchronized with his heart or something. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know, but I can hear it. So I became extremely clairaudient and clairvoyant through through the other thing, more about the clairvoyance, which one day we might talk about.
Yeah, yeah. When
That
you're
one's a
ready,
little crazy. I mean, I guess
yeah.
they're all kind of crazy.
When you're ready, I don't want to rush you. If you're comfortable, we'll talk, and if you're never comfortable, then we won't. We won't do that episode. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah, man, that'd be cool.
Mm.
Ghosts, man, I appreciate that. Thanks, man. That means a lot. Because I definitely trust you and I consider you a friend, man, like a real friend, man. I
Yeah,
believe you
like,
got my back.
amen.
I like when it comes to like ghosts or like spirits, like, and it comes towards this like tarot or like witchcraft, like, I can understand why people can deem it as evil. Like, it bothers me. I mean, it doesn't necessarily bother me, but like, it's just not me. Like, when others will tell me they have these spirit guides, so it's like they have all these different guides who tell them things, and I don't, I mean, I have that, but I don't listen. I
Mm.
only follow the one true voice, and like, that's the divine voice of God.
Mm.
And like, I am nobody. I am nobody but a vessel, and I only specifically have one guardian, and that's Archangel Michael. And I mean, really, it's like a sacred geometrical shape. And when I say Michael, which is means like onto God with the question mark, like, is he God? Is he not God? That's what it means. Um, he is like he. It's really an aura, or like it's like the Most High, basically. And I just can't take the dogma out of it because it's the way that I can kind of grasp it still. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and I have these little chants I do that just, it's like Michael to the left, Michael to the right, Michael above, Michael below, Michael within, Michael all around with your flaming sword of cobalt blue. As you do this, after you say that, then you say what you need to say, thank or ask or, whatever. And after a few years, it just became natural. So it's like what you're doing is you're training your attention to your breath. So you follow the breath of life in the proper way. And it goes doom, 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 and then the blue part of it, you see yourself, your throat surrounded by cobalt blue, and that's the color, the vibration of your thyroid. It would be the color blue. Um,
Okay.
so that's so like the left and the right and up and down and within it opens up your body, and then you have the five sheaths before you can get to the divine. And so this would be in mystic Kabbalah. This would be in the Vedas for the yogis, India. It's all over. There's these sheaths, and like basically, like when you connect these chakras before you can get to the next ones, you have to be able to, so like you open these up, but they're all in within sections, and as Ezekiel says, wheels within wheels, like I believe he's speaking about within. Maybe he did see something outside, this flaming chariot and these wheels above and whatever speaks about in the Bible, but internally he probably had manifested that in a way to twist reality to see what he had seen from within outside, for we reflect reality. And so when you get to these sheaths, there's like these brackets, like you have to connect these two, and then these three connected these two, and then these four connected these three, and then the five connected these four, and then the five to the two. It's like there's these little brackets. I'd have to show you a picture. And once you break the five sheaths is when you can get up. And when you do this little chant and it brings your breath, and then like starts to come up and you feel your belly, and then you go around, and then with the cobalt blue, you start to see cobalt blue swirling around, going up, and it starts to open that up. And eventually, after a while, it just becomes this. And back to what I was saying though about spirits, like a lot of people will say that they have these guides, and that's like if somebody like, and it's the reason why I've never gotten a reading from anyone before, because like first of all, like tarot is very psychological. It tells you like where you are within life, and it picks up on key things, and then things will come out if the person is true. And you end up seeing something that is occurring within your life, and it's like a key, and it kind of like opens the door to like which hallway you want to take once you open that door. So there's options, but then there's other people who swear by these spirits, and like so it's like there's this one woman, I won't mention her name, but this ties in with ghosts. She told me that she went to this one place, and everyone was saying that there was this negative spirit there, and she went there and became friends with this negative spirit, and now this spirit guides her, right? But it got like when she's giving readings to people, it's always something negative. And like, dude, people are so easily manipulated. It's crazy. Like the average person is so easily manipulated, and there's a level of manipulation with everything in the world. And with tarot, it's no different. And like, but when you manipulate, it's the vibration. It's not like you're. It's not like I'm trying to pull up and I see that there was just a loss within the family and you're sad about it, and then I'm gonna double down and try to fucking scare you. You know what I'm saying? Like, because then you're starting to create these fears that we spoke about earlier. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
Like,
know what you're saying.
so I don't do that, and other people do, and then other people like to take credit for like predictions. And like when someone does that, man, like there's these attachments, dude. Like there's like these ghost hunters. Like I'll tell you one more. I'll tell you a story because I'm kind of like going like everywhere. I'm sorry about that.
It's fine. I
Um,
like to listen.
um, so there is this one person who ended up going to this one house that was haunted, that we knew was haunted, and I've been meaning to go there. Okay, and it is it was a house on this property where there was an old school, and it was a small school, um, and it was an abandoned place. So I didn't go for a while because it's too far away. And just to keep in mind, I have a lot of this stuff on tape. Um, so this girl comes over to me and told me that she had seen an entity pop up into the corner and tell tell her to tell me that if I don't leave, I'll be cursed for the rest of my life. And then uh, something about my aunt um, sacrificing herself. It was something so strange, right? And I'm looking at her and I'm like, what the fuck are you trying to say to me right now? Like, are you trying to cast a spell upon my life? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because, or are you literally telling me that you just literally saw a spirit there and you physically heard a voice tell you this specific thing about my life? And this, like, in this whole paragraph, like, I had never had a full on conversation like that with a spirit that I had seen or a ghost. So I've never had a conversation with a ghost that I've seen, you
Right.
know? But I just like, it's like, dude, like these people, they get caught in this Luciferian light where it's like they get a glimpse of like the other behind the curtain, and then they think that like they're special, and they get so egotistical, and then like now anything they hear within their mind is a prophecy, you
Mm.
know. And I completely shrugged that shit off, but like if it would have been towards somebody else,
Yeah.
then like it could have probably really hurt their life, man. You
Right.
know? And in that house, I had an experience, and I saw a all I saw was a woman, and it was just for a brief second, and she just kind of came and faded, and that was it.
Right.
And I felt nothing bad in the house, like nothing at all. Like there,
I can I can share a story with you if you're interested
yeah,
about
yeah, please
a
do.
it was a psychic who'd had a conversation with a spirit. Okay, and it's one. So this is a story that was told to me by my cousin. Now my cousin is a police officer. He's ex-military, so he's not fond of flights of fancy and stuff like that. But when he says something to me that it's and he utterly believes it, I believe it too because I know he's not the kind of guy that was going to fuck me about and tell me stuff like this for no reason. So to give you a little bit of backstory to the details, so my granddad was an American soldier. He was over here during the war. He went back to the States. We lost contact. We never knew who he was. My dad grew up without ever having met him. And I said to my dad, I wanted permission to track him down and try and find the family in there. And he said, yeah, go for it. Didn't think I was going to be successful, but amazingly, I was. And I reached out to this guy who's my cousin, Bo. He's a police officer in San Antonio in Texas. And we become friends since, you know what I mean? We've done the DNA test, make sure we got the right person, but we managed to reconnect that thing. But the weird thing to that is, so his dad grew up thinking there was just three siblings, him and his brother and his sister. He never knew that my dad existed. My granddad had gone back to the States. He'd settled down in, I think it was in Mississippi, and he'd never ever shared that story with his family. However, after he had passed away, his property, which is built on Indian land because he's Cherokee, I'm part Cherokee myself, so his property had handed to one of his sons, Walter, who lives there, which is Bo's dad. And years and years and years before I'd written this letter and I'd reached out to Bo and we'd got in contact, so years before this had happened, they had no idea that I existed, my dad existed, or that link was there. And Walter had this person over to the house. I'm not sure what the relationship was. I think it was a friend of a friend, and he was showing her around the house. And she said, "I just need to say something. There's a guy in the corner of the room, and he's yelling at me. He's really, really angry with me, and I think that's his guitar there on the wall." And he goes, "Well, that's my dad's guitar." And he described the individual. She described what she was seeing, and by all accounts, this was Leonard. It was my grandfather. It was Walter's dad. He carried on showing around the house, and he went into a room and says, "He's in here again, and he's yelling at me. He's really, really unhappy." And she said, and he's like, "Oh, okay," because he doesn't buy into this sort of thing. And he says, "Well, why would he be unhappy?" And she says, "It's because I know something that he doesn't want you to know." Okay, so they talked a little bit longer, and he said, "Look, just out of interest, what is it? What is it that you know that he doesn't want you to know?" And she said, "You have a brother, a half brother in England." And that is something you would never ever dream of saying that to anybody if you didn't know it to be true. You know what I mean? So Leonard knew he had a child in England. Nobody else in America, none of my family knew that was the case.
No shit.
Yeah, yeah. And then
So what happened? I mean,
well, literally. So when Bo got this letter, and he gets this letter, and he's basically saying, "This story's true. Your dad has a half brother in England." So he went and he said, like, and he went and he said, "Look, I need to share this with you. This guy sent me this letter. He's done the research, and everything I'm seeing on here looks legit. He's not after money. He's not after anything like that. He just wants to reach out, let us know if we're not interested. He's fine with us not being interested, but he just wanted to know if you're interested. Then we can get in contact. And we have. And I've been out to Texas to meet him. He's been out to the UK a couple of times. We've had some great times. I didn't expect anything like that to happen. But as he's relating this story to his dad, he said his dad was literally like, "Oh, okay." Strokes his beard, like taking it in. And his dad passed away, unfortunately, without ever getting to meet my dad. But Bo came over here and we met my dad. We sat down and we all had a drink together, and that was nice. But yeah, it was so strange, so strange. It's just not a thing that you would ever say, I don't believe, if you didn't know it to be true. And this is why I do believe this woman, whoever she was, and I don't know anything more about her. Bo doesn't know anything more about her, really. She knew something, and she was given some knowledge, or she found that knowledge out somewhere. I have no idea how you could possibly know that.
right.
She must have known it, because it's you could say something random to somebody, that would never be it. That would never be it.
Oh man, no way. That's yeah, that's legit, man. It's hard to find true mediums. You
Yeah.
know, I have mediumship qualities, but I, if anyone ever like asked me to, try that, I would never. I already don't charge as it is. I just accept donations, but normally I pass them on to my teacher. If you're ever interested, you know, you can hit me up. I'll link you up with Erin. She's the real deal, man. And like, you never know. Like maybe like you'll hear something else that kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like, and
Yeah.
she's like legit, man. Like for real. You know, that's a very interesting story too. That's cool. It ties in with the family and stuff. Did it change your cousin at all?
Yeah, it did, because it was a story his dad had told him. He never gave it any credence to it. But he's had a couple of experiences himself, and I do believe, I don't know whether it's the Native American side or what have you, but he's had a few experiences himself, which way I'll send you a picture later, that he had a girlfriend, or I think they may have been married, but he had a girlfriend that she was haunted by spirits and demons, and I'll send you a picture that she had sent him, and it's creepy as all hell. You know, and it makes no sense to me. Makes no sense to me. It looks literally like something manifesting inside a house. And so he had had some experiences with her, and he shared a story. He's not one for sharing these sort of things, but I've got him into podcast, and he guested on a podcast not long ago where he's sharing this story, and he told a bit there that I don't think he's ever told me. In that once he left that relationship and he decided it was time to move on, he stood outside the house and said to whatever was in there, "You need to stay here. Whatever you're interested in is here. I'm going, and I don't want you to come with me." And he turned around and walked away, and he never looked back.
Wow. Where is this house at?
This is in Mississippi.
Really? Dude, that's crazy. I got family in Mississippi. I'd
Yeah,
love to check that house
Biloxi. I
out.
don't know if you know Biloxi.
Say what?
In Biloxi, in Mississippi.
Biloxi, I don't know where that's at. I got a family in a small town called Brookhaven. Um, I don't know. If I ever go to when I go back to Mississippi, I might hit you up, dude.
Yeah, you let me know. You let me know. I'm sure he'll let you know the address. But the thing is, she moved.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, she moved, and the house she moved to, sure enough, she was having experiences. It wasn't just the house; it was her. It was tied to her. So maybe, so that story you told earlier about, you'd had that experience in the house, and you felt like something had followed you home. And that guy had that spirit that was following him, and then suddenly it stopped. Obviously, at the time that he interacted with you, and it left with you.
Mm,
Very similar experience to that, I expect. Now,
yeah. And he told me that so I know what entity it was. It was called Zozo. It's like this. It's like this notorious entity that they say that it's like they're on the fence about it being demonic. Like they say it's demonic, but it's like it's not fully demonic because it's a somehow it's like a spell or something that happens where it's like it becomes manifested or something. Like I would have to look at the research again, but like I remember them saying that it's got like evil qualities, but I guess it's not considered. I could maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they've changed it lately, but it's this thing that shows up um, more than any other thing when people play with Ouija boards.
mm,
Um, and then there's some videos out there it was either Ghost Hunters or Ghost Adventures. I can't remember which one. Um, they did a Ouija board one with these guys who said that they um, encountered Zozo and that they were like kind of addicted to it, something like that, and weird. Like, I'm very skeptical about all them shows too,
yeah,
but like,
yeah,
you know, certain ones, it's supposed to like Zozo is supposed to be like somehow like a sexual like where it's like it'll make you. It's like supposed to be like a perverted thing. Like um, I was never like that. Um, but when I mean perverted, it's like I think it was mostly for females, if I'm remembering correctly. But like women will like end up like blacking out and like waking up with like their pants off and stuff and like weird shit, man. Like
mm,
um, I don't remember anything like that happening to me. Um, but I did just talk to my friend Josh, who was my neighbor, my best friend growing up, about Keith, and he had said that he thinks he has some repressed memories from them, and I was like, dude, I was like, and he was like, yeah, it's what you're thinking, and I was like, no, bro, I was like, I know, but I was about to say like, I don't have that at all, like I don't I feel like I would have remembered something like that, because he
yeah,
never once was like that with me, like he just wasn't. I never ever, and I never told I asked my mom, my mom was like, you never said nothing, you never acted funny, like, You know, the only thing was this monster. You said there was a monster following you. You know, so I don't know. Like maybe Keith did some weird shit to other. I don't, but I don't. I sure as hell hope not. You know,
No, I hope not to. I hope not to. And you know, if you never experienced that, then that's I guess that's one thing to be grateful for.
yeah, I'm gonna talk to Josh about it again. Um, you know, just because he just like went through a little break. He's going through this detox program right now. He was drinking kind of heavily, which by the way, I was just flipping around with my cards and stuff, and I pulled the six of coins, and that's like the very charitable card, a lot of social work. Um, um, could be like social work, volunteering, stuff like that, big benefits. It's just I was just pulling an overall card for you. Um, and this is a pretty good card to pull, but because the Six of Cups is really big on like it can be like like nostalgia, um, uh, like memories, families, but then it's also like the number six is the mother of all numbers in numerology. It's what kind of connects it all. Like everything comes back to six. Um, and it's not only the number, but it's also the shape. Because if you flip the six, you can make it nine. But if you make them in a specific way, you can create geometrical shapes, and it creates the life. And it's telling me that there's some type of so right now you're going about things in the right way. Um, there's some type. I feel like this is more. It might be an investment. um, I don't know. Overall, I'm not going to go ahead and pull another card for you. I did peek at the other card, and it was the King of Cups reversed, but I had decided that I wasn't really going to go that way. But if there is anybody who you're concerned about, who may be an alcoholic or something like that,
Mm.
um, I'd be very careful. Like, or if somebody has any type of addictions, and you know, I don't know if maybe end up giving being charitable towards the wrong person. I think it's just basically saying like be careful about who you help, but I'm more so feeling like there may be a new business venture that comes along. Um, and I feel like you're prepared for it and you've been offering a lot lately. I have this what did I before I do that, let me see. You're probably gonna lose me for a second. But I just wanna check something in my book um, and just read off of things. Because so I told you the thing about the six of coins, but like the main thing about the six of coins is really like, it's the mother of all numbers, and it talks about like charity with justice and like a fair distribution of wealth and like generosity, presents, gifts, material gained. And let me get to my page. Okay, this is what I have written down. I got the Six of Pentacles indicates that you will receive an unexpected but much needed gift, possibly even a large inheritance. This is a card of balance in relation to wealth and money. If you are involved in a business enterprise with others, any profit will be distributed fairly. This can also apply to such things as a shared lottery ticket or a gambling syndicate. That's what I have written down. And the six of coins is also the what was it? The Lord of Material Success. Yeah, the Lord of Material Success. Um, the card timing. It's the Moon in Taurus, so it's a fixed Earth sign. It's May 1st through 10th. And we got the Hairpin the Empress is that. Okay, I just wanted to double check that. You could hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you clear as day.
Okay, so it's not necessarily a reading. I'm just giving you an overall card, and just be aware, be conscious of the fact that what you give out, what you dish out over the next I would even say the rest of this year. What you dish out the rest of this year is what you're going to receive back like tenfold. So as long as you're doing the right thing and it feels right to you,
Mm-hmm.
I would say go for it, because it's going to come back in like a very positive manner, bro.
That's
So
worth that's worth knowing. Absolutely. Well, there's a couple of things, as you said there, that resonate with me. That maybe, if you don't mind hanging along after we've ended this episode, I'll share a few things. I wouldn't want to necessarily share over the podcast.
I got
But
you.
yeah, but we are around. Well, we normally wrap things up around about the hour mark. We're an hour and 20 in, and I make no apologies for that, because I've really enjoyed this episode. Really, Evan, I enjoy having you on the podcast. I enjoy hearing about your journey, because, like you said at the very, very start, it's quite unique. You're an interesting person. Dull things don't happen to you. Interesting things happen, and I love hearing about them. I'm sure our listeners do too.
I appreciate that, man. That means a lot to me. It's weird stories, and it feels honestly sometimes like it feels like I try to avoid it. I try to pretend like it's not real, just because sometimes everyone's got their own patterns, their ups and their downs, and sometimes when I'm down, I just feel like I wish that I was just a regular person with a job and a house and kids, but God's called me for something else, a bigger purpose, and not meaning financially or anything. You never know, but just gonna keep trying to do the right thing, man. That means a
That's
lot to me, bro. Like,
Yeah,
for real.
that journey isn't right for everybody. That journey isn't right for everybody. And it's interesting that you say that, because, the experiences you're having, you think some days you wish you could just have that job, you got that money coming in, you got the wife, you got the kids, yada, yada, yada. What I'm going to tell you now, is somebody who does have a fairly regular life, have a regular job, have two kids and a wife and a house. I generally find that, actually, that I look at what you have, and I'm also envious. Unfortunately, it looks like we've actually lost Evan there. Not to worry though, because we're going to wrap this episode up. It's right at the end, so if you're going to lose a guest, that's the right time to do it, isn't it? Let's be honest. But thank you, Evan. We will catch up and we will talk soon, and we will be back next week when we will be talking about something very, very different. I can promise you that. Take care.
Friends around the mic, kicking back, alright. Day turns into night, podcast in the spotlight. Sipping on that brew, talking